Chapter 9, Strategic Movement and Positioning. Sun Tzu said, when positioning the army against the enemy, avoid areas where mountains are cut off by valleys and ensure the area is elevated for better visibility. Avoid placing the army in locations that are difficult to ascend, as this would be a disadvantage in mountainous terrain. When crossing water, ensure a sufficient distance from the river. Do not meet the enemy while they are in the water. Instead, wait for them to cross halfway and then strike. If you want to engage in battle, avoid positioning yourself near water when confronting the enemy. Choose high ground for an advantage and avoid meeting the enemy in flowing water. This is the strategy for armies near water. When dealing with marshes and swamps, move swiftly and do not linger. If two armies meet in a swamp, ensure you stay near water grasses and face away from dense trees. This is the method for armies in marshy areas. In flatlands, it is easier to maneuver, but you should make sure that the enemy's back is to higher ground with the front of your army facing danger. This is how armies should move in flatlands. These four strategies were the reason the Yellow Emperor was able to defeat the four emperors. Armies generally prefer high ground and avoid low ground. They value sunny areas and avoid shaded ones. Armies thrive in healthy environments and maintain strong positions with no lasting weaknesses. This is how victory is assured. When positioned on hills or levees, make sure to be in the sunny area and have your back to higher ground. This is the advantage of terrain and the support of the environment. When it rains and the water rises, if you wish to cross, wait until the water has settled. When encountering areas with deep ravines or traps, such as the Heavenly Pit, Heavenly Prison, Heavenly Net, Heavenly Trap, or Heavenly Crevice, leave immediately and avoid these places. If I avoid these, the enemy will approach. If I approach, the enemy will retreat. When near dangerous terrain, such as swamps, muddy wells, reeds, forests, or dense growth, be cautious, as these are places where enemies might lie in ambush. When the enemy is close and quiet, they rely on their position's strength. If they challenge from a distance, it is to lure the enemy in. The place they occupy may be advantageous. If many trees are moving, the enemy is approaching. If dense grass obstructs the view, there is suspicion. If birds take flight, it signals an ambush. If animals are startled, it signifies an impending threat. If dust rises sharply, it means vehicles are approaching. If the ground is low and wide, it's likely foot soldiers. If paths are scattered and clear, it may be woodcutters. If only a few are moving, they are likely soldiers. If there is a humble tone but more precautions are being taken, they are advancing. If the tone is strong but the forces are retreating, it signals withdrawal. If light vehicles are ahead and to the side, it indicates formation. If there is no agreement but a request for peace, it's a plot. If the army is scattered and arranged, it means a planned confrontation. If the movement is half advancing and half retreating, it's a trap. If soldiers lean on staffs and stand, it indicates hunger. If they fetch water first and drink, it signals thirst. If they see an opportunity but do not advance, it means exhaustion. If birds gather, it suggests a weak point. If there are calls at night, it indicates fear. If the army is disturbed, it shows the general has lost control. If flags are moving, it indicates confusion. If officers are angry, the troops are fatigued. If grain, horses, and meat are running out and the army refuses to return to base, it shows the enemy is desperate. If the soldiers whisper among themselves, morale has been lost. If rewards are frequent, it signals desperation. If punishments are frequent, it indicates weariness. If the general is harsh and then fears the troops, it shows a lack of discipline. If those seeking rest are apologizing, it shows they need recovery. When the army faces the enemy with anger but does not engage or retreat, careful observation is required. Thus, the size of the army is not as important as its strategy. The key is to avoid reckless advances, focusing on overwhelming the enemy and capturing their forces. Only when there is no concern and the enemy is easily dealt with can victory be achieved. If a soldier has not yet aligned with your cause and is punished, they will not obey. If they are punished after already aligning, they will not respect the order. Therefore, unifying the army through proper rewards and discipline is crucial for victory. When the general maintains integrity and consistently leads the people, they will follow. However, if the general lacks consistency in leadership, the people will not follow. When the leader acts with integrity, they will be in harmony with troops. 1. Battle of Gaugamela, 331 BCE, Alexander the Great versus Darius III. The Battle of Gaugamela is one of the most famous strategic victories of Alexander the Great, where strategic movement and positioning played a key role. In this battle, Alexander faced the much larger Persian army led by Darius III, which numbered over 100,000, while Alexander's forces totaled about 40,000. Despite the size disparity, Alexander's superior strategy and tactics secured a decisive victory. Number 1. Utilizing higher ground for positioning. Alexander positioned his army on higher ground, which provided several advantages. This tactic made it easier to defend against enemy advances and gave his troops better visibility over the battlefield. Being on elevated terrain allowed Alexander's forces to effectively observe enemy movements and respond accordingly. In contrast, Darius chose to fight on a vast, flat plain, which gave Alexander a significant advantage in positioning. Number 2. Use of cavalry and chariots. The Persian army had a powerful cavalry and chariot force, which they relied on as the main force for attack. However, Alexander countered this by deploying his light cavalry and infantry in a highly mobile way. Specifically, Alexander used his cavalry to lure and neutralize the Persian chariot units, weakening their impact on the battle. This allowed Alexander's forces to maintain the initiative and prevent Darius's cavalry from overwhelming his troops. 3. Central breach and lure tactics. One of Alexander's key tactics was to create a weak spot in his center to lure the Persian forces into attacking. Darius focused his efforts on the center of Alexander's army, believing it to be the weakest point. As Darius's army pressed the attack in the center, Alexander executed a brilliant move by sending his cavalry around the Persian flanks, causing Darius's forces to be attacked from both sides. This split the Persian army and led to a decisive breakthrough. Number 4. Breaking the enemy's morale. As the battle unfolded, Darius's forces started to lose momentum and their morale collapsed. The Persian chariots and cavalry were overwhelmed by the superior mobility and tactics of Alexander's army. As a result, Darius panicked and fled the battlefield. Once their leader retreated, the Persian army disintegrated and Alexander's forces secured victory. 5. Effective use of terrain. Throughout the battle, Alexander skillfully used the terrain to his advantage. He positioned his troops in areas that allowed him to control key routes and block enemy advances. He also used natural barriers such as rivers and hills to defend his forces while maintaining the ability to outmaneuver the larger Persian army. This use of terrain, combined with his strategic deployment, allowed Alexander to maintain the upper hand. Conclusion. The Battle of Gaugamela exemplifies how strategic movement and positioning can overcome significant numerical disadvantage. Alexander's success was not just due to the strength of his army, but his ability to adapt to the terrain, control the battlefield, and exploit weaknesses in the Persian forces. This victory is a textbook example of how strategic positioning and flexibility can lead to overwhelming success in warfare. Number 2. Key insights and summary. Sun Tzu emphasizes the importance of strategic positioning based on terrain, such as preferring high ground, avoiding dangerous areas like swamps or ravines, and making use of natural features to gain an advantage. He advises against reckless movements and stresses the value of discipline, proper leadership, and unity within the army. Success is achieved through careful observation of the enemy's movements, maintaining control over the army's morale, and making informed strategic decisions based on the environment and the situation at hand.